Okay, so I'm assuming we are live, but let me just verify with Todd. All right, perfect. All right, well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Peoria Proud's Inquery Teaching Webinar. I'm Courtney Garrett. My pronouns are she, her, and I will be your host for the evening. This ongoing series serves as a way to bring knowledgeable professionals to a wide audience on a host of different subjects concerning the LGBTQ plus community and will be recorded for posterity. After the presentation, we'll open it up for some Q&A. Tonight's topic is on legally changing your name, gender, and updating your birth certificate. And joining us to discuss this is an incredible person who is going to enlighten us with their knowledge and experience. I'd like to start by providing some background on your presenter tonight. Carolyn Walskog is the Director of Operations and Programming at Youth Outlook, a youth service agency that works to meet with the ever-evolving needs of LGBTQ plus youth and their families in Northern Illinois. Additionally, Carolyn is the coordinator of the Transformative Justice Law Project's Name Change Mobilization, servicing trans folks across Illinois. She serves as an adjunct professor at Jane Addams College of Social Work at University of Illinois at Chicago. Carolyn works with educators, mental health professionals, and other youth workers to create a safe, supportive, and affirming policies and practices for working with queer and trans young people and their families. Thank you, Carolyn, for joining us this evening.
Thank you, Courtney. Thanks for having me, Peoria Proud, and welcome to everybody who's listening in tonight or watching our recording. This is part one of a two-part series that we're doing. So tonight we're going to talk about the legal name and gender marker, or the legal name change process in Illinois, and really be able to deep dive into that process, which actually changed on March 1st. And then I think I'm back in 2 weeks and we'll talk specifically about gender marker change. So if you're listening tonight and you want to talk about gender marker change, we can save those questions for the end, but know that we'll mostly talk about the legal name change process tonight and then dive more into the gender marker change next time. So as was mentioned, my name is Carolyn Walskog. I use she and they pronouns, and I have been working with TJLP for the past 10 years. I started as a volunteer when I was a case manager working with youth experiencing homelessness and really just not sure how to navigate the name change process. So I started in my county in DuPage and really realized the need for access to understanding the name change process for people who were attending Youth Outlook drop-in centers, and so people living outside of Chicago. And because of things like electronic filing, we've been able to expand TJLP services to anyone in the state of Illinois. So there are 102 counties in Illinois, and I have not changed people's names in all 102, but getting pretty close. So whatever county you're in, we'll focus on what the Peoria process is, but happy to talk about your specific county if you have any questions. So without further ado, I'm going to keep us moving on our slide deck, and I have a bunch of tabs open, you'll see, because we're going to go through all of the various paperwork that you'll need for this process. So what I have in mind for tonight is I'll do a quick overview of TJLP's services so you can learn what we do and how we serve Illinois. Then we'll talk about the eligibility for getting your name legally changed. We'll talk about the differences between adult and minor name changes. And then we'll complete the name change paperwork. And I'll show you different links for help that you can do when completing your paperwork. Some other tips for filing, and we'll have a Q&A. But again, if you're watching, feel free to ask questions throughout. We can see those. So TJLP as an organization, so our name is Transformative Justice Law Project of Illinois. We were founded in the mid-2000s by a group of social workers, lawyers, community members who really wanted trans people to have access to a system that's often like mystified. Um, and so wanted to help people have access to the legal system. Since that time of our founding, now we've changed over 4,000 names of trans and gender expansive people in the state of Illinois. We started with a clinic in Cook County and brought it out to the collar counties and then expanded. We're a small but mighty team, and we're rooted in the values of the abolition of the prison industrial complex, of transformative justice, being trauma and healing informed, harm reduction, and gender self-determination. So for our name change services, this is our primary program that we have at TJLP at this point. And so we offer no cost support to assist Illinois residents to complete their legal name change. We support people outside of Cook County through one-on-one phone call appointments to complete your paperwork and to file in your respective county. So you'll see on the screen, we have a QR code that you can scan. So I'm going to teach you tonight how to change your name, but I'm also going to tell you we are here for you and you don't have to do this on your own. So I'm going to talk about what the process looks like. So if you want to do this by yourself, you're welcome to, but please know that we exist so that you don't have to do this by yourself. So again, feel free to share that QR code. It just links to the intake form that's on our website that you can also find at tjlp.org. But so these are our services. If you are watching from Cook County, we also do in-person clinics in the Chicago area. If you're outside of Chicago, what we'll do is you put in your intake in, and then you're on our wait list, and then we'll email you to set up a phone call where we would do all your paperwork with you. All right, so let's talk about the overview of the name change eligibility. So when you want to change your name in Illinois, there's different rules. So what I tell everybody when they go to change their name is that every state has a different process for name change, and it's based on where you live. So it's not based on where you were born of where you change your name, it's where you currently reside. So if you live to change your name in Illinois, you have to live in Illinois. You don't have to be a citizen, but you have to be a resident. You have to live in Illinois. And what has changed in our law since that went into effect March 1st is that you only now have to live here for 3 months at the time of your name change hearing. So prior to March 1st, the residency requirement was 6 months at the time of filing. So if we think about how many people might be moving to Illinois, fleeing states with more harmful laws, your clock would start when you got to Illinois. You'd have to wait 6 months before you could even submit. Now that's changed to 3 months at the date of your hearing. So you could probably file your name change once you've been here for about 2 months now, which is really nice. You have to file your paperwork in the county where you live. So if you live in Peoria County, you submit your paperwork through Peoria County. If you live in, Naperville, you have to file in DuPage County. You have to be 18 to file your paperwork on your own, or if you're a minor, one of your parents or guardians has to file on your behalf. So if you are like in foster care, you live in a group home, so we call that being a youth in care, maybe DCFS is involved in your life, there is a pathway to change your name. So you would talk to your case manager, or within DCFS, there's an LGBTQ clinical coordinator named Kelly Crooks that you can talk to, or the Office of the Public Guardian. The other eligibility requirement is that if you've previously been convicted of a felony, your sentence needs to be complete, including the completion of your probation or parole or mandatory supervised release. So up until several years ago, if you wanted to change your name, you had to wait 10 years from after your felony conviction ended. We got rid of that 10-year bar, but you still have to now have your felony completed. So unfortunately, like our incarcerated trans siblings cannot change their name in Illinois at this point. So that may be something we advocate for later, but at this point, that's not available to people who have an active felony. All right, so we got that covered. You have to live in Illinois, be here for 3 months, file in the county where you live, be 18 to file on your own behalf, and then not have a present felony conviction. All right, so then talking about the fees. It's different in each county on how much it costs to change your name. I've seen it as low, which is still high, $306, and as high as $388. So up in Chicago, it's the most expensive. Peoria County charges $331 for a name change. And you make your payment at the time of filing. So if I want to turn my paperwork in and say I want my name changed, I have to be prepared to make that payment at that day, that moment. Depending on you or your family's income level, you may be able to qualify for a fee waiver. So a fee waiver is where you ask the court to waive your court fee. And in most courts, if you qualify for public benefits like SNAP, SSI, TANF, or if you make less than 125% of the federal poverty line, you can get your fees waived. So for a single person, 125% of the poverty line is making around $19,000 a year or less. You can make up to 200% of the federal poverty line to get a partial waiver. So you might be able to get a 25% discount, a 50% discount on the fees. So there's paperwork that I'm going to show you after we kind of go through this next couple of slides on how to complete a fee waiver application. If you don't qualify for a fee waiver, but you still can't afford the name change, there are some scholarship available through different websites. And we've partnered with some local PFLAG chapters. And I know some people have done GoFundMes, things like that. So if you don't think you'll qualify for a fee waiver, but can't make the payment, feel free to reach out to us and we can see if we can come up with a scholarship. All right. Now, publication. So this is where we get to celebrate. Many of you may have seen our post that we shared early or in February, but as of March 1st, so we're 11 days in, publication has been repealed from the name change statute for adult name changes in Illinois. So this is a really awesome thing that took a long time to get to. So prior to March 1st, when adults changed their name in Illinois, they had to typically publish notice of their name change in the newspaper, or they could ask the court for a publication waiver. The judge in Peoria was granting those waivers, so Peoria counties had access to a name change without publication for about a year and a half, but some counties, the judges were not granting those. So getting publication removed from the name change statute is a really big deal for privacy. And so we celebrate that win. And so if this is still new, right? We're 11 days in. So if a judge asks you, did you publish? Or if a clerk tells you that you can't have a court date until you publish, you may have to tell them the name change law has changed and publication has been repealed. And so I'd like the soonest court date available. And now minors don't typically publish their name change unless there's no other way to contact their other parent or guardian. So publication for minors typically doesn't happen either, but on some occasions we have to use it as a mechanism for notifying the other parent of the name change. All right, so we've covered kind of the eligibility, the cost, and publication. So now we'll get into talking about adult versus minor name changes. So when it comes to adult name changes, there's certain paperwork that you fill out, and I'm going to show you that paperwork in a second. But typically, you are going to complete a form called a request for name change for an adult, and then you're going to file a motion to impound or make your case private, and then you're going to prepare a name change order and a motion to impound order. In most counties, you're going to prepare these. Some counties require different paperwork, so it's hard to make a guide for what to do in every single circumstance. But for the most part, those are the ones that you're going to need. And then you might also need to fill out your fee waiver form. Some things to note is if you're a couple, maybe both in a couple, you both of you want to change your name and you're married, you can file your name change under the same case number and only have to pay one fee. But that would also take into account your household income. So if you're applying for a fee waiver, they would look at both of your incomes. But you can apply for a name change together and even on the same paperwork so that you only have to pay once. Maybe your child is changing their name and you realize you as a parent also want to change your name, or you're a parent with two children who want to change your name. You can do that as a family, and it's just one case number, one fee. All right, so that's with adult name changes. With minor name changes, this is where it can be different. So minors, when it comes to name changes for minors, it's really unique to each family, and your situation might require different paperwork. I mentioned already that publication is not required, but notice to any parent who has not had their parental rights terminated is required. So in most cases, you're going to complete a form called a request for name change minor child. You're going to complete a form called a request for name change child information. You can also then file the motion to impound and make the case private. And then there may be other forms needed depending on your circumstances. So let's talk about what those circumstances could look like. And it'll make more sense when I show you the paperwork for the minors. But when you are changing the name of a minor, one of the parents or guardians has to file the paperwork. And then there's a spot for the other parent to sign on to say that they agree to the name change, or there's a spot to say, I don't know if that other parent agrees, or you could say, no, they don't agree. Then if that parent agrees, they will complete the paperwork and their signature will get notarized saying, yes, they agree to the name change. That's the most simple way to do a minor name change if the other parent agrees to sign on to the paperwork. If the other parent does not agree to sign on to the paperwork, you would list their information, and then they're required to be given notice of that the name change hearing is happening. So sometimes people will say, well, the other parent is not listed on the birth certificate. The judge will still ask you if the other parent exists, if there is another parent, and have you attempt to contact them. So most often what we do is we send a certified letter to the last known address of that parent, and then they receive that letter. Sometimes we can't do that, so we may attempt to contact them by Facebook or email and tell them that the name change is happening. Or in some cases, when we can't find them, then we would publish notice of the name change in the newspaper. So we try to not do that for the minor's privacy, but sometimes we have to do that. So every situation can be a little bit different. So again, when it comes to minor name changes, you don't have to do this alone. We're happy to help you, but just know that you will, anyone who hasn't had their parental rights terminated has to know that the name change hearing is happening. All right, so we've talked about adults and minor name changes. Now I'm going to talk about how we complete the paperwork. And I don't see any questions so far, so if anyone has any, please feel free to type them in the chat. So when you go to complete the paperwork, you're going to prepare your paperwork. You can either download it from the state's website, or Illinois Legal Aid has what's called a name change form generator. It's available in English and Spanish. So you can follow through their portal to create the paperwork. And then you're going to register through the court's online portal, which is called Odyssey eFile Illinois, which I'll show you how to do that. You'll activate your account, and then from there, you're going to start filing your paperwork. So I'm going to pause from this slideshow and start showing you some of the forms of what that will look like. All right. So this is one of the Illinois courts websites. So you can get to this by just searching Illinois fee waiver forms, and this should be one of the first that comes up. And you'll see here that says approve statewide forms fee waiver for civil case. So if you were applying for a fee waiver so that if you cannot afford your name change case, you're going to need these two documents: application for fee waiver and then the order for fee waiver. So I already have them open, so I'm going to go to the next slide here. And this is what the application for fee waivers looks like. Fee waiver looks like. So you're going to type in your county. So you would list Peoria here. See if I can make this bigger. And then it says plaintiff or petitioner. So that's who you are. When you're requesting the name change, you become the plaintiff/petitioner. And you're going to fill out your name, your legal name. So the name that's on your birth certificate here. So you're going to want to make sure you list if you're a junior, a third, that kind of thing. So you're going to list your name here. You will not have a case number yet. The court will sign that, so that will be blank. And the defendant, you can also leave blank. So you're going to put your county and then your current legal name, not the new name yet. And then you'll scroll down and then you'll see information, basic information. I'm completing this for, typically it's for myself. And then you're going to repeat your name again. You'll see that there's a lot of copying and pasting. So you're going to put your legal name there and then your address. And it says, I cannot afford to pay the court fees and charges in this case. Then you'll scroll down and you'll look at your household information. It'll ask you to talk about your household. So it'll ask you how many people that you support who live with you that are adults and children. So if you have like an adult child or a spouse, don't include yourself. You'll list how many adults are in your house and then how many children. And then it'll ask you questions about if you receive any public benefits. So we have SSI, SNAP, so food stamps if you get the link card, AIDS, the age, blind and disabled, TANF, or other general assistance, or state and children family assistance. So if your kids get all kids Medicaid, you can click this. So so if you check yes to any of these boxes on number 3, you do not have to answer any additional information about your income. But if you don't receive those, you will scroll down here and you're going to say, I did not check any of the public benefits boxes. I don't. And then if you have a pending application for one of those benefits, you would check yes or no. And then this section here is going to have you list your income in the last month and then in the last 12 months. Now, we're in a good place right now because it's tax season, so you probably have a pretty good idea of your 2024 gross income if you've done your taxes already. But this is where you would look at your bank or your pay stubs and calculate how much money you made in the last 30 days. So if you're working, most people are selecting employment and listing that. But if you receive child support, unemployment, you can list those things here. And then you're going to list what your gross income is. So it's not how much was deposited in your account, but what your gross income was. So those incomes will get listed here. And then you'll scroll down to the next one. And then this is where you're going to list your expenses. So how much is your rent, or if you have a mortgage, how much do you spend a month on utilities? And that could include your cell phone bills. How much do you spend a month on food? I think people tend to underestimate how much they spend on food. And with the rising costs, really look back and see how much your average costs are. They're typically a lot higher than you would think. You would include medical. So I think about how much do I spend on hormones, therapy, like do you have to pay for your insurance premiums, medicine, copays, those types of things. Your vehicle could be like, do you have a car payment? Do you have car insurance? I usually list gas here, but I think that could be included. How much do you spend a year on car maintenance? Kind of dividing that by 12. So really want to give the judge a picture of what your expenses are. And then you need to list how much money you have total in all of your bank accounts. If you have a vehicle and it's paid off, or it's not, you'd have to list how much it's worth. And then you'd scroll down to hardship information. And here I would usually write like, I'm I'm a student or I work part-time, my bills exceed my income. And so you would fill that information out and then you scroll down. And I always check that I would want a remote court date if there's questions about my application. Um, they tend to, especially in Peoria, they don't usually have a court date. The judge makes the decision just by looking at your paperwork. And then you fill out your information. So this S here means that you can type your signature. So you don't have to print this out and scan it. You can type your name and then type your name again. You would have your information. If you're filing this on your own, you'll leave this attorney number blank. So that's the fee waiver application. And then you're also going to prepare an order. This is what the judge will sign to decide about your fee waiver. So you'll list your county, your name, and you'll put your name here. And then that's all you list on this form. And when the judge reviews your paperwork, they'll grant your paperwork either because you receive benefits or because your income is 125% of the poverty line or less. Or they could grant you a partial waiver. So I do want to open a different tab and show you the poverty guidelines. So I like this website, Mass Legal, and they kind of show you the income. So for a household size of 1, you have to be under 19,563 to get a full fee waiver. Technically, for a household of 2, it's 26,000. And then you can go up to 200%. So if you make less than $31,300, and this is probably really small, you can get a partial waiver. So it's worth trying. All right. So we've talked about fee waiver and then the order. So let's talk about the name change paperwork now. So the same thing I told you earlier, you can Google name change paperwork Illinois, and this Illinois court's website will show up. And this is what we call the name change suite. So where all the name change paperwork is. And it'll say here that Illinois Legal Aid Online provides a guided interview called an easy form that will help you fill out these forms. Since we just updated the paperwork like on Friday because of the law, I don't know if the easy forms are updated yet, so you'll have to take a look. But there is a guide called How to Change Your Name. I'm kind of doing that right now, but if you do better reading along, you can click on this to see that guide. And then you'll see that this is the typical paperwork needed for a name change. So a request for a name change form, then the motion to impound. The minor name change suite is also here. So you can click on that and see there's a lot more paperwork involved with minor name changes. You do not use all of it, but because there's so many different scenarios when it comes to minors, there's different paperwork that you may use. But the ones I showed you, these top ones are the most typical. All right. So here we are with the request for name change. This is what everybody in Illinois will complete when changing their name if you're an adult. So you're going to fill out the county where you live, and then you're going to list your current legal name. So you want to spell out your full middle name that's on your birth certificate. So verify what your current legal name is on your birth certificate, or if you've gotten married, you would list whatever. So sometimes their birth certificate doesn't match their name because they changed their last name when they got married. So it's whatever your most current legal name is, but you're going to fill that out completely here. Then you're going to say, I ask the court to enter an order to change my name, and you're going to list what your name is and then what you want it to be. So fill out, it's not just middle initial, it's the full middle name of what your old name is and what your new name is. And then you'll list that you've continuously lived in Illinois beginning on what date. So maybe you were born here, you moved away, you came back, whenever that date is that you got back. Then you're going to list your birth date. So if you've lived here your whole life, those two will be the same. And then you'll list where you were born. So your city, county, state, and country. Sometimes if you're born out of the country, you won't be able to fill out all those boxes, but you'll do it to the best you can. And then here it says, I received a divorce judgment and wish to change my name back. In most cases, that's not what we're talking about, so you'll check no. All right. So then this is when we get into the criminal history, and this has changed slightly with on these new forms. So it'll ask if you've been convicted or placed on probation for a misdemeanor in Illinois for which a pardon has not been granted, and if you've been convicted or placed on probation for a misdemeanor in another state. Um, so having a misdemeanor does not mean that you can't change your name, but you do have to disclose that. And then it'll ask you, do you have an arrest for which charges have not been filed? So that means, have you recently been arrested and not charged yet? And then if you have a pending felony or misdemeanor. Then they'll ask you, have you been convicted or placed on probation for a felony in Illinois or any other state? And then have you been convicted or placed on probation for a crime which requires you to register under the Sex Offender Registry Act, the Murder and Violent Offender Against Youth Act, or the Arsonist Registration Act in Illinois? So if you check yes, you folks who have to be on the registries do have a path to change their name if they can, if they're changing their name because of marriage, because of statuses of victim of trafficking, because of religious beliefs, or gender identity related reasons. So if this is your situation, you really should contact an attorney or TJLP to help you file, just to make sure that you're meeting the requirements of your registration. And then the last one says, have you been convicted or placed on probation for identity theft or aggravated identity theft? All right. And then again, if you have a criminal history, if you answered yes to E, F, or G, you would list that in the box here, or if you need more space, you can add additional paper. So if you're just filing for you, you can then now skip the rest of this section. If you have a spouse who is also changing their name at the same time, then you would fill out their information. So I'm going to kind of scroll through here because we're just going to get to the bottom of this. Okay. So then you're going to sign this again, that same S, where you don't have to sign it yourself. You can type in your name, your phone number, your email, your address, and you can use an alternate address if disclosing your address would put your household at risk. So some people put their office, things like that. And then if your spouse was changing their name, they would sign that too. So that's the request for name change. So for the most part, everybody's completing that. And then you could, I'm going to show you the motion to impound next. So this is new. So in the name change law that was updated on March 1st, they created a pathway to impound or make the court records private. So this is the statewide form for motion to impound. So you would list your county, your legal name, and here it says impound. This means the court records will be kept private. Only the people involved in the case, the judge, and the court clerk can see them unless the judge gives someone else permission. You can only use this form if you believe that having the court file be public would be a hardship and have a negative impact on your health or safety. Notice, until this motion is granted or if this motion is denied, this form will be a public record. So name changes are part of the public record. Even though we're not publishing them, they still exist in the court's online portal. And so people may want to fill out a motion to impound so that it will not be on the online portal. So it'll ask you, why do you want to keep your court file private? So you'll say, I'm asking the court to keep my court records from this name change private. Making my court file public would be a hardship for me and have a negative impact on my health or safety. And the reason it would be a hardship, you'll check one of the two of the boxes. So the first box says that the petitioner is one or more of the following categories: transgender, an adoptee, a survivor of domestic or intimate partner abuse, a survivor of gender-based violence, and the list kind of goes on. So you can check that box, or other, I have another reason, that includes, but is not limited to, physical harm and discrimination. It says you can attach supporting documents. We have not um, done that so far, but again, it's only been 11 days. And then you'll add your information here again. So for the most part in Peoria, if you're applying for the fee waiver, you're going to complete the fee waiver application. You're going to do the request for a name change form. And then if you want to make your case private, the motion to impound. So those are the 3 things that you need to really to get started. If you are watching this and you're from another county, sometimes you also have to prepare another form called a notice of court date, which is not a publication notice. It's a form that gets your court date on the judge's calendar. Peoria doesn't tend to use that. I'll show you that though in a little bit. So then you're going to prepare the orders, and then you're going to bring these to court for this. So you're going to prepare the order and the motion to impound. So you can write your county and your name, and then the judge will write in the rest. You could write your case number once you get it, and the judge will agree or deny your motion to impound. And then at your court hearing, you're also going to get an order for your name change. So again, your county, your name, and then you don't put anything else. Well, actually, you can prepare this part. You can write what your old name is and new name is here. And then this is what the judge will sign. And I'm going to make it smaller so you can kind of see. It's a 1-pager. So your name change order, I kind of call this the golden ticket. So once the judge signs this, this is what you bring with you to all of the various places that you that know you, the DMV, Social Security, for your birth certificate. This is what shows you've had a legal name change. Once your name is changed, if you don't tell anybody, nobody will know. So you have to bring this to all the various places to change your name. Okay, so someone in the chat wrote, if a person was granted their name change prior to the release of the motion to impound form, can you still file a motion to impound? Yes. So you would go back to the county where you changed your name, and then you would file to reopen your name change case and file this notice of a motion to impound into that case. If you've had to publish your name change in the newspaper, that doesn't go away, right? If you published previously, you can't remove that. It happened. But some people had a publication waiver and still don't want it in the court record. So yes, you can go back and file that. We will eventually, be able to support people to go back and do that. We're just been very busy since the election and inauguration. So we're trying to catch up. That when we have a little bit more capacity, we'll kind of be announcing for people who've previously done this and want to go back. We can help you file, or you can do it on your own. You can go approach those counties now and ask them to impound your case. Sometimes there's a fee to reopen. So I think I had to pay $60 in one county to do that. So you'd have to talk to your judge. So this is the paperwork. So again, this order, you'll get these copies certified. So usually they have an embossed seal, so a raised seal. And so I usually get 5-6 copies of this, because some places they keep them when you give them to them. So my partner had to send one into the credit card company. So we don't know if we'll get that one back. All right, so I showed you the fee waiver forms, the adult name change forms. Now we're going to take a peek at the minor name change forms that are slightly different. So this is what a request for name change form looks like for a minor. And so the request here is not going to be the minor's name, it's going to be the parent or guardian. And the way the forms work, really, it's just one parent or guardian puts their name up here. And then it says, I ask the court to enter orders to change the names of the minor children listed below. And so if you're just changing one child's name, you're going to list on line A what their full old name is and what their full new name is. If you have multiple kids changing their name, you would list them below. And then you would check the box, that they've lived here for at least, this form should say 3 months. The state needs to update it, but Right now it says 6 months, but technically it's 3. So you would check these boxes. I'm attaching the request for name change child information, which we're going to look at the next, and that they've lived in Illinois for at least 6 months. And then you scroll down, and then you're going to sign this as the parent with your name, your information, your phone number, and email. So that's part 1 of the minor paperwork. And then the other minor paperwork is called request for name change child information. So that other one said minor child, this is child information. So this is like part 2. So you'll fill out your county and your parent name, and then you're going to fill out the child information again. This is their legal name, so not their new name, but their legal name will be listed here. And you'll list their date of birth, where they were born, their address, and then your relationship. Now, most people are going to select, I'm a parent that has custody and or parental decision-making responsibility. If you're married and you would still select that. It's not that you have full custody, it's just that you have custody, period. And then you're going to answer questions about your child's criminal history. So I kind of already read those to you on the previous, so it's the same questions, asking about your child who's getting their name changed if they have any felonies or misdemeanors. And then it'll ask you, why are you changing the minor's name? So I usually check all of, oopsie, I'm really scrolled in there. I check all the boxes. I want to have my child's name changed. They want to have their name changed. And then on the other, I'll use whatever the pronouns this child uses. So I might say, this is the name that affirms his identity or her identity, or their identity. So it gives like one chance for you to tell kind of the judge what their pronouns are. So I personally do that, but you don't have to. All right. And then when it comes to the other parent information, so if the other parent is deceased, you can check this box and list their name. And most often you're going to have to provide the death certificate to the court to show that there's no other parent to notify because they have passed away. If there's another parent, you're going to check this box and list their name, and then write if they agree to the name change. If yes, you're going to fill out their information here, and they're going to have to get their signature notarized. So the other parent's information will be on here. And then you would scroll down and it would ask you, are there any additional parents? So besides you who filed and this other parent you listed, is there anyone else? For the most part, you're going to check no. I think in cases where maybe a grandparent had guardianship and their grandchild lived with them, and we had to notify the mom and the dad, like then we use additional paperwork. But for the most part, you'll check no. If the other parent, you don't know if they agree, you leave this section blank. You would check, I don't know, and you wouldn't have to get this form notarized. It's the easiest if you can have the other parent sign and notarize it, but it's not always everybody's an option available to everybody. And then this is what the name change order looks like for minors. So it's a one-pager. So you'll have, again, the name or the county, the parent's name, and then you can pre-fill out the child's old name and new name, but the judge is going to check the boxes. So you don't check the boxes that it's ordered. The judge will do that and sign it. So you'll see here that this says additional orders, and the adult one had that too. If you were not born in Illinois, you may need to find out what the state that you're born in requires to change your birth certificate. So, for example, New York and Minnesota require that your court order lists your birthday in order to update your name on your birth certificate. So for people who are born in New York but getting their name changed here, for additional orders, we would list date of birth, born in Albany, New York, or whatever. So again, if you were born in a state outside of Illinois, you might want to research that or reach out to us and we can help you if you need to add any of that additional information. um, let's see if I have it here. If you need to notify the other parent that the name change is happening for your minor child, you may have to fill out this form called a notice of court date, where you would get your hearing information, which I'll tell you how to do that, when your court date will be, if it'll be in person or remote. And then you'll have to send notice. You would list the other parent's name. Are you going to send notice typically by certified mail, and what date you're going to send it? And then you would sign this information, and you would print this form out and mail that to the other parent. And you get this kind of, if you've sent certified mail, it's this little green card, and then it has tracking information. And so you have to track it, show that it got delivered. And I usually print off the UPS delivery and file that for the judge to see that we attempted to make contact of that other parent. So those are the generalities of this process, but know that, everybody's situation can be a little bit unique. All right, so we've looked at all the paperwork, it's prepared, so now we need to file it. So the system to file paperwork is called Odyssey eFile Illinois. And so this is what the website will look like when you come to it. And there's going to be a spot here on the bottom right that says register for an individual account. So if you're filing your paperwork, you're going to click here to register. And I have that page up. And so you're going to type in your email address and you're going to create a password. And then for user information, I usually put the full old name because it's just easy. It makes it easier later. So the full old name, I spell out the middle name, your address, your phone number, and then you'll click I agree and register. And then it's going to send you an email that's going to ask you to activate your account. So you'll get that email and it'll be from, it might say it's from no reply. So you'll open that, you'll activate your account, and then you can come back to this page and sign in. So I'm going to sign in. Let's see, not this one, hold on. So this is my fake account that I don't use, and this pop-up's gonna happen that's gonna say, before you can file, you need to create your payment account. So I'm gonna select add a payment account, add my account. If I'm doing a waiver, I'm gonna type in waiver, payment account, waiver, and then it makes me select waiver again, and then I'll click save. So if I'm attempting to get a fee waiver. If I'm not, I'm gonna write my card or my Visa, and I'll select credit card and then enter information. And then credit card will pop up again, and I'll type in my information. You can type in your bank account number if you want. You'd have to know your routing number and account number. It's kind of up to you. So we'll just do waiver for the sake of this. We'll save, and then we're going to go to our filing dashboard, and I'm going to click start filing, and I want to start a new case. So my court location, I'm going to go to Peoria County, and then name changes are what's called miscellaneous remedies. So I'm going to type in miscellaneous remedy, and then my case type is going to be change of name. So you can see here that a name change is $331. This may come up small on your screen, so I'm hoping that you're able to see this. And then you're going to go to parties, and then you're going to click add party details. And you can select I am this party. I don't even know what name will show up when I do that. Let's see. Okay, yeah, so there's my information. You don't need to enter your birth date. So you would fill out your full name. This is our Cook County our address, and it'll say pro se, you're representing yourself. And then you'll hit save. And then you're going to go to filings. And then it'll say no filings added, so you're going to add a filing. And then you'll see two buttons. One says e-file only or e-file and serve. You always only want to do e-file. And then filing code, you're going to look up, let's see. So this one doesn't have a spot for a request for name change. So I usually do this as a complaint for Peoria County. Now, this is where it's different for every county. Some counties, if you look, it'll say request for name change adult. So each county has different filing codes. I usually list this as a complaint, and then I write request for name change adult. And then I come down here and I would select a file, and it's going to pop up and it's going to say confidential or non-confidential. And you're going to want to select non-confidential because these are technically public record. And then you're going to press save. I'm not doing that because I don't want you to see all my files, but right now it's red because I didn't actually, there's a red error message because I didn't actually upload it. But if you do it correctly, you it won't show up that way. Now you only upload one file per time. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look for a waiver, and I'm going to write application for a fee waiver. And so then again, lead document, I'm going to select my file. I'll select non-confidential. I'll save it. And then the next thing, so this is if you're applying for a fee waiver. If you're just filing for a request, you would do the request and then the motion. But I'm going to do this like we're applying for a fee waiver. And then here I'm going to look for a proposed order, and I'm going to type proposed order for fee waiver. And then again, you're going to upload your proposed order for the fee waiver that you prepared. And then I'm going to hit save. And then lastly, what I'm going to do is I'm going to file my motion. And I'm going to do motion to impound. When it comes to e-filing, sometimes some courts want you to only file the fee waiver first with the name change and then deal with the motion to impound afterward. You would once you have a case number. But I think for Peoria, you can do all at the same time. So again, I'm going to pretend like I uploaded it. So if I'm in Peoria and I'm doing a fee waiver, I've got my request for name change, my application for fee waiver, my proposed order for fee waiver, and then my motion to impound. I'm not submitting my proposed order for my name change request or my proposed order for my motion to impound. Those I'll bring to my hearing. So it's not going to let me skip to fees right now because I didn't do everything correctly here. But ideally, if I had uploaded fake documents for you all, it would let me either click this button service or skip to fees. There's no service required for you. So you would skip that. You would go skip to fees, and then you would select your payment method. It would pop up to have you select your credit card or your fee waiver that you stored. And then you're going to get a draft filing show up. You'll look it over, make sure it all looks correct, and you'll hit submit. So this is as far as I can take you on here. So you'll submit your paperwork. And if we go back to the dashboard, right now you can see that what I just created is in my drafts. But once I submit it, it will fall into this middle category called filing history. And it'll show up as what's called an envelope. So your paperwork has been submitted. And then the courts process your paperwork. In Peoria, they look over your fee waiver, and then you'll get it. When you submit your paperwork, you'll get an email that says filing submitted. And then when you get it, your paperwork accepted, meaning you have a case number and your case is started, you'll get an email saying filing accepted. And in this filing history, you'll be able to see your case number. So it'll be 2025 MR for miscellaneous remedy, and then a number. So maybe your case number is 2025 MR 101. Once you know that has happened, in Peoria, what you can do, the clerk might call you, or you can call if you search Peoria Circuit Clerk, you call them and you ask to set a court date. and then let me actually go back to my slides. So we went through this. So once you have a case number, depending on your county, you're waiting for your fee waiver to be approved. And then you will call your clerk to get your court date. For Peoria, the court dates are always on Mondays at 10:30 in person. So like in Cook County, most of our cases are on Zoom. Peoria, people typically go in person. So you'll bring those 2 order documents that you've prepared on the day that you have your hearing, go to the courthouse, and then the judge will see you for your paperwork. So we've talked about this. When you get to court, you're going to check in with the clerk in your room. You wait for your name or your court case to be called, and the judge will bring you up to kind of like stand in front of them. Sometimes they swear you in, so they have you raise your right hand and swear that what you say is going to be true and correct. And then they'll review your paperwork and make sure that you're eligible. So that you live in Illinois, you've lived here for the required amount of time. So then they sign off on your name change order, and then you can get those copies certified. So I mentioned we recommend getting like 4, 5, 6 certified copies. If you had a fee waiver, those copies are free. Otherwise, you have to pay for them, and they're typically like $6 or so per copy. All right. So the one thing I didn't talk about is gender marker change court orders. So we're going to talk more about gender marker change at our next session, but I do want to share that for the most part in Illinois, you do not need a court order to change your gender marker. However, if you were born in a state that requires a court order to change the gender marker on your birth certificate, and you're already going to change your name, or maybe you've already changed it, but you need that court order, Illinois now has a process for people to go before the courts in Illinois and ask for what's called a finding of fact, for the judge to write an order directing the state that you were born in to correct the gender on your birth certificate. Each state is different. Not all states require this, and some have different requirements to be able to get that court order. So for example, people who are born in Wisconsin, if they want to change the gender marker on their birth certificate, they have to have surgery, so gender confirmation surgery, and a court order. So you would have to bring proof to the judge in Illinois that you've had gender confirmation surgery. Then that judge will write an order stating that you spoke to them and they verified that you had this surgery, often because you provided a letter from your physician who did your surgery. Then the judge will write you this court order, and then you can bring that court order back to Wisconsin, and then you hope that they change the gender marker on your birth certificate. There's several states that never allow you to change the gender marker on your birth certificate. And some states don't require a court order. So like if you were born in California, you don't need that court order. You just need a court order of name change to change your name. But other states like Illinois allow you to self-designate what your gender marker is. So if you are born in a state that requires a court order, you also can use our same intake form on the TJLP website, and we can assist you to determine if, one, you need that, if you're eligible for it, and then help you complete that paperwork. If you've already done a name change and just need that court order, we would do that separately. Or if you're doing your name change at the same time, we would file that motion or that petition for the out-of-state gender marker court order to be seen with your name change case. All right, so that was a lot of information, a lot of talking, but I think I made it through all of the process. So we talked about eligibility, creating the paperwork, e-filing it, and then getting your case number, and then going to court. So want to pause and see if there's any questions. I know, Courtney, I see you here now. Are there anything I didn't cover that I could be more clear about?
Something I have for a question is once you have the name change court order in hand It's already gone through. You stood in front of the judge, and you are now ready to go and update your name on documents. Is there any specific order that you suggest doing that? Is there any place where you need to definitely make sure you have to have that updated?
Yeah, so there's no like requirement of how quickly you need to update your forms, and there's no like first place you need to start. I think there's a lot of information that going around where families think that you have to get the birth certificate corrected first, which is not true. And some states like Texas and Florida are so hostile to trans people right now. We don't even recommend updating it with there. So I typically like, you know, pre-COVID times, we would usually go to the DMV or Social Security first, just because you used to be able to walk into those places. Now, sometimes you need an appointment, but usually starting with Social Security and the DMV, and then looking at your state and preparing the stuff to mail those in. Those are kind of the big ones, but you can really do it in whatever order like works best for your life.
So what are the specific documents that you might need to take to some of these places or submit to some of these places that you're familiar with?
So, the court order of name change that you're going to receive that's certified, that is what you like kind of brings your name, ties your name together. So, you'll want to bring that. If you already have an Illinois active, like valid driver's license or state ID, typically you only need to bring that valid ID plus your court order to the DMV, and that's enough for them to change your name. Next time when we do the follow up, I'll talk about what to bring with the gender marker change as well, because there's a self designation form. But for folks who might not see that, um, you would you when you get to the Illinois DMV, you can change your name and gender marker at the same time. So there's a form that they can either provide, but I usually recommend bringing with, and so then you can switch your gender marker there. But for the most part, when you go to places, you just need your court order. So if you're going to the bank, um, to change your name on your accounts, you bring that. If you're going to the Social Security office, you bring your court order of name change, and that's enough for them to be able to adjust your name on your documents.
So, is there any restrictions around what you change your name to, perchance? Do they restrict how many times maybe you could change that name?
There, as far as in the statute, there's not a restriction on how many times you can change your name or what you change your name to. I think it depends on the judge, right? Because they ultimately have to sign off on your name change. So, sometimes if people choose like profanity for their middle name, like a judge may not sign off on that because they may say, "Well, I don't think that you could get a job with that name" or something. Um, I haven't seen a name that a judge has denied. We've had people with a lot of middle names. Um, some judges have questioned if people only want to choose one name, like not have a last name. Um, so that we just we've had judges approve that, but I think you have to understand that you might run into um, just trouble navigating bureaucracy in life if you don't have a last name. So there's not necessarily a specific thing that a judge will not grant, but if you live in a more conservative county, you know, and it's something, I don't know, a little more bizarre than the judges used to, they may not grant it. But I don't have any examples that I can share that were denied.
Um, okay, another question. Uh, is there when I went for in front of the judge one time, there was someone else there getting their name changed that they were being contested by the state due to a criminal record. What kind of cases might be where the judge might deny the name change, whether it's based on a criminal record or if there's maybe something else? Is there a way that someone could show up randomly and be able to deny you getting your name changed, even if you don't have a criminal record?
Um, for the most part, like we have heard of people trying to contest a name change um, for um, sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to say it. Trying to contest a name change because they didn't support their transgender family member, but they don't really have like a standing to be able to do that. On occasion, when people have had a criminal background, state's attorneys may file an objection, and they may require that you update your criminal transcript once you change your name. So sometimes when we see the objections, we still get the name changes granted, but there may be requirements that you have to update your like rap sheet that shows that your name was this and is something else. But typically, people can't just off the street like contest someone's name change.
Okay. I don't have too many questions because I mean we still have part two to go to, and I
Yeah.
don't want to spoil some of that. Um, and I don't see anything coming through for any more questions, but uh, other than that, where I see that we have your card up here. If you would like to just let us know where we can find you, how we can kind of get in contact with you.
Yeah. So the best way to reach us is always name change at tjlp.org. So if you have questions, and our website's tjlp.org. And then that's where you can find our intake form. My information, my email is carolyn at tjlp.org. So if you want to ask me a question directly, and then I just listed that we're going to do a part 2 weeks from tonight and really dive into gender marker updates. And so if you have questions that you want to send ahead of time to make sure that we cover, feel free to do so. But yeah, that's about it.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's been very illuminating. I very much appreciate everything that you brought to us, the knowledge. I think you really dove into the details, and I love that. Um, we will see you next time on, as you said, the March 25th for gender marker updates. Other than that, have a great night, everybody, and we will see you then.
Thank you.